In 2021, BYD began selling their electric cars in many countries around the world. In 2022, it ramped these efforts up. It's now sold tens of thousands of EVs outside of China. However, there are now claims that BYD's cars are exploding all over China. I mean, literally all over China, even killing people potentially. And it's claimed that this is all being hidden and covered up by the Chinese government. Now, I should point out that not a single one of the electric cars that have been sold outside of China is yet to have caught fire. So far, I have found no EVs made by BYD and sold outside of China that have had any fire-related problems whatsoever, according to state-owned Chinese media. High temperatures and heat waves in China have impacted Chinese electric vehicles way more than fossil fuel-powered vehicles. In China, there have been several instances of electric vehicles spontaneously blowing into pieces, exploding, and spanning different brands and models. Data for the first quarter of 2022, released by the Fire and Rescue Bureau of the Ministry of Emergency Management, showed that 19,000 cases of fire and explosions in vehicles were reported, a year-on-year increase of 32%. China has long pursued electric vehicle ambitions, and it eyes to dominate the world with its building pool of companies. China's BYD even dethroned Tesla as the largest electric vehicle manufacturer in China. BYD, NIO, Skywell, Aways, Hoson, Nita, Leapmotor, and many others, including the up-and-coming Aon, which are soon to sell their EVs in Australia and Europe, have emerged as the largest electric vehicle companies in China. These companies have looked to extend their business overseas. Zhang Yang, Dean of the New Energy Vehicle Technology Research Institute of Yangtze New Energy Technology Vocational College, said to Securities Daily in China, the current safety problems of new energy vehicles, meaning plug-in hybrids and electric cars, mainly revolve around the spontaneous combustion, fire, or explosion of the battery. Whether the battery can guarantee the safety when it is deformed or squeezed is the key. At the 2022 World Power Battery Conference, Sun Yinhua, lead scientist for China's 937 plan, and an academic of the European Academy of Sciences, said that judging from the state of the electric vehicles on fire, 35% are in a charging state, 40% are in a driving state, and 20% are in a stationary state. Now, according to Sun Yinhua, ternary batteries have a greater burn rate than lithium iron phosphate batteries. Now, this is one of the key reasons why the industry in China has moved rapidly away from ternary batteries, which are still being used en masse in Europe, America, South Korea, and Japan, and started manufacturing lithium iron phosphate. In 2022, market share for lithium iron phosphate increased from around 35% to nearly 70% in China. 3 days ago, a video called Hidden, China's flagship EVs are exploding in enormous numbers, was published. Straight away, you guys emailed me, messaged me, said, look at this, BYD. There are BYD cars burning to the ground all over China. EVs in China are exploding everywhere. It's disastrous. What do you think about this? Well, within the space of only 2 days, an article popped up on Car News China saying that Nita's electric vehicle caught fire while driving, not the first time in China. On the 1st of April, a Nita electric vehicle caught fire on a street in China. On the day of the incident, the owner of the car was driving when suddenly he heard abnormal noises and then found the car starting to smoke. Luckily, he stopped and got out of the car quickly before any injury occurred. Subsequently, the car burst into flames. The video claims, and it has lots of video evidence, that Chinese electric cars are blowing up all over China, primarily BYDs. In fact, almost all of the clips are of BYD electric cars. He also claims that Chinese electric trains are exploding into flames, and also that you're no longer allowed to take your Chinese electric skateboard, electric bike, electric scooter onto any kind of public transport because they're blowing up, killing people. Hello, my friends. Welcome to the channel. I'm the Electric Viking. Great to see you. Thank you for tuning in. On this channel, I like to tell people the truth, even if they don't like to hear it. That's the whole point of this channel. So is there any truth to this video? In this video, the author claims that the Chinese government is intentionally suppressing all this information, making sure you don't find out about it, making sure you don't find out about the massive problem with BYD's electric cars, because the Chinese government secretly wants them to succeed. So it's making sure the media doesn't tell you any of this about what's going on. Now, I want to point out that on the 16th of February, Charlie Munger from Berkshire Hathaway, who is the partner with Warren Buffett and a big stock owner of BYD, said that BYD is so much ahead of Tesla in China that it's almost ridiculous. Munger told CNBC's Becky Quick that BYD was absolutely killing Tesla in China. When it comes to sales in China, he's right. On average, BYD sells around 5 times as many cars in China as Tesla. In fact, BYD is now the biggest manufacturer of cars in China, period. It didn't used to be. But it's risen up the ranks incredibly quickly. And the Chinese people now, they love BYDs. In fact, they're ordering them en masse. There are a big waiting list for BYDs. Now, he claims, the author of this video claims, that these waiting lists are fake. BYD is manufacturing them and making them up. And actually, if you have a look on his channel, it turns out that his entire YouTube channel is created in order to slander China. Now, some of the videos he's made are probably right. Some of them, I'm not so sure. But clearly, it is his agenda to bash China. That's what his entire channel is all about. Everything that China does wrong, and they do some things wrong, that's for sure. So he has a fair point on some of his videos. Now, BYD says that its blade battery, lithium iron phosphate blade battery, is the safest battery in the world. They don't catch fire or very rarely catch fire. However, Auto Evolution reported on the 3rd of August 2022 that a BYD Han EV caught fire spontaneously 2 days after an independent crash test. At the time, BYD said the blaze was caused by a conductive coolant that should not be in the vehicle. Now, clearly the Han EV here caught fire. In fact, there's been a few Han EVs that have caught fire. Most of these, strangely enough, were actually reported on by the Chinese media. I thought the Chinese media weren't allowed to report on this stuff. Now, I've actually Googled this. I found numerous reports in Chinese media of, electric cars catching fire in China. So, one thing is, clearly incorrect here. Chinese government isn't suppressing the media from reporting on Chinese EV fires, because I found about 50 such articles from different media publications in China. Now, people that witnessed this Han EV took videos of it and quickly shared them on social media. And, they still all exist, surprisingly. In one of them, we can see the car bursting into flames. Although it's hard to see if it's the Han EV or the Han DM, the hybrid version of the Han EV. However, the fire does seem to be concentrated in the middle and the rear of the car. Now, there was another fire that happened in October of 2021. That happened in Shenzhen, where the BYD headquarters are. Now, this Han EV was traveling on the Shenzhen Expressway when it began smoking at high speed. After the driver stopped the car, it was engulfed in flames. There has been a few Han EVs that have burned to the ground. There's been a few Tang EVs that have burned to the ground as well. Now, the reason I can tell you these models is because I know pretty much every one of BYD's models that they sell. Strangely, it turns out the Chinese media, not only are they reporting on individual fire sales for EVs, and if you want to find that info, it's very easy to do so, which is in direct contradiction to what this YouTuber claims. It also turns out that this YouTuber doesn't even know the model names of the cars in the video. Now, he claims to be an expert on BYD and their EVs. But strangely, he doesn't know the model names of any of the cars in the videos except one, the Han. Everything else he just calls a BYD top of the line premium car. strange that, an expert on Chinese EVs and BYD EVs in particular doesn't know what they're called. Now, on the 17th of October 2022, data recorded by the Chinese Fire and Rescue Department of the Ministry of Energy Department on the 3rd of April said that 3,640 electrical vehicles caught fire in the first quarter of the year, 32% higher than a year earlier. They don't say what models they are or how big they were or whether or not they were bikes or what they were. They just say 3,640 vehicles that use electricity caught fire. That means that about 7 electric vehicles of some type catch fire daily in China. According to Car News China, when comparing the numbers mentioned above to the past 2 years, there has been 86 electric car fires reported. Now, here are the brands that were involved. Global Times says that the Ato M5, the first Harmony OS powered electric vehicle placed in a store in Mongolia, burned to the frame and killed 2 people. The cause of death for the 2 killed was said to be asphyxiation from carbon monoxide poisoning. In Heiwan City, Guangdong Province, on the 11th of June, 2 brand new electric vehicles exploded while charging and were burned to the ground. The same vehicle burned to the ground in Hefei City not long after. Firefighters and reporters heard a loud explosion and saw a large fire. According to Tencent.com, Chinese social media, the electric car on fire was an Aura brand car owned by Hefei Great Wall Motors. It was less than 2 years old. Well, Aura is a pretty new brand. It's probably less than 1 year old. So that's more than likely the Aura Good Cat. Recently, BYD, China's largest electric vehicle manufacturer, also experienced a number of fire-related incidents involving EVs. BYD to date has recorded a total of 11 fires from the year 2020 to 2022. Now, let's assume that there's been twice that many electric car fires between 2020 and 2022 for BYD. Let's say that the 11 isn't true and there's really 22. Let's say we double that and say, no, it's 44. Is that enough to say that BYD's cars are catching fire almost every day, like this YouTuber sensationally claims on his channel? Without any evidence, by the way. He provides no sources, no statistics, nothing of any kind other than a few random YouTube clips. One broken down car which he says is evidence that BYD's cars are terrible quality, and his own experience of buying a 10-year-old BYD saying that it had some issues. Does this mean BYD's vehicles are burning to the ground? Well, I've scoured the internet. I've scoured YouTube. Yes, there's definitely been some EVs catch fire. But there's one big problem here. The entire premise of the video and the premise of the channel is to create something sensational. He says at the start of the video that EVs catch fire far more often and far more frequently as a percentage than internal combustion engine vehicles. Now, I've looked at some data, and it turns out there's actually tens of thousands of gasoline-powered vehicles in China that burn to the ground every single year. Way more than there are electric cars. I've also been unable to verify this guy's claims that BYD vehicles are burning to the ground all over China. I would have thought if they were, that Chinese buyers would simply buy other brands. I mean, there's other brands selling EVs at cheaper prices than BYD. Instead, word of mouth for BYD has been incredibly positive in China, which has led, really, to the biggest reason why their cars are selling so well. I mean, there's about 80 other electric vehicle manufacturers in China. There's plenty of choice. Customers don't have to go to BYD. They can buy Tesla, they can buy NIO, they can buy XPeng, they can buy Leapmotor, they can buy Nida, they can buy so many other brands. Why are they choosing BYD? And in many cases, paying more for a BYD than something else. The truth is, my friends, yes, there are definitely electric car fires. No, they don't happen more frequently than gasoline-powered cars. And no, they don't happen more frequently in BYDs than other vehicles. Most of the clips shown by this YouTuber were actually plug-in hybrids. And they were gasoline-powered vehicles, which could have started from sparking gasoline or the battery. We don't know. There's really no way of knowing, unfortunately. However, showing 6 random YouTube clips of BYD vehicles on fire, when BYD sells hundreds and hundreds of thousands of EVs every quarter, let alone every year, is not really compelling evidence that BYD vehicles are exploding all over China. Now, is it true that there's cheap EVs in China that are burned to the ground? Absolutely, there definitely are. There are so many. Look on Alibaba. You can buy EVs for $1,000. literally $1,000. The quality of those would be very poor. The chances of one of those burning to the ground is probably pretty high, especially the ones that don't use lithium iron phosphate batteries. But keep in mind, Tesla use BYD batteries in their cars now in Europe. Tesla use CATL batteries in their standard range vehicles. In fact, 60% of Tesla's vehicles worldwide use China batteries made by CATL and BYD. Now, as far as we know, those cars catch fire at a far lower rate than other cars made by Tesla, using batteries from Panasonic, which are made in conjunction with Tesla. Those batteries have actually caught fire at a higher rate than the Chinese-made batteries used in Tesla vehicles. Since Tesla, in fact, has started using Chinese batteries from BYD and CATL, as a percentage, they've had far less fires in their cars. The key reason for this, LFP batteries or lithium iron phosphate batteries are far less likely to catch fire than lithium ternary batteries. In fact, about 90% of the world's battery recalls have come from LG Chem, a South Korean battery company that uses and manufactures lithium ternary batteries. I should point out that LG Chem is now working on manufacturing lithium iron phosphate batteries because there is so much demand for these batteries and they are safer and cheaper to manufacture than the batteries that they currently use, which have gone into Chevy Bolts, Bolt EUVs, and Kia Niros, which have had more recalls than any other EVs ever made in the history of the world. Those are some facts for you. Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and thank you for watching. Bye-bye.